Hey, what's happening, YouTube? This is Josh and Aaron from Sword Carolina coming at you with the third installment of our Dough-Bringer 2.0, rehashing the techniques that we're looking at a little bit differently here. So we're going to be talking about the two most important cuts in the manuscripts. And I'm not saying that, the manuscript is saying that. It states that the Oberhau and Unterhau, from these cuts, everything else is derived. So when I'm first thinking about that, I'm like, okay, if I practice my Oberhau and I practice my Unterhau more, I'm gonna get better at doing all of the other master cuts. A little bit different take on it these days, to where now we're actually, as I've already explained, the Oberhau and the Unterhau are two different categories, and you can actually take all the cuts and put them into those two categories. Am I right?
You're right.
Yeah. So, so let's talk about, when I'm doing the basic Oberhau and the basic Unterhau, there's a couple of things, there's a couple of tips or benefits that you can glean from the manuscripts that are going to produce a good result. The first one is cut to the body, right? Everyone, sees a sword, especially newer people, the sword is out in front of them, and they are always cutting right here to the sword. And what that is doing is, even if you've seized the vor in that moment, you're not threatening your opponent. You're not producing any type of threat or anything to where they really have to do anything. All you've done is cut at their sword. So that's not what the manuscript tells you to do. It tells you to actually go and cut to the body, right? And that's producing an action to where he's going to have to defend. He's going to have to put himself in somewhat of a compromised position and maybe give me that edge that I need to maintain the vor. I've seized the vor, maybe I can maintain it if I'm actually cutting to the body. A couple of key mechanics that we're talking about with our basic Oberhau and our basic Unterhau is that we got to lead with the sword, right? So many people are either stepping first, right? Yeah.
Don't do that with me. Yeah.
That's right. So they're stepping first and their sword is way back here, right? And what I find a lot of times is people's arms and their body lock as one, right? So when they're doing a passing step, the passing step is actually this with a cut. All right, what we actually need to do is we need to have our sword ready. We need to push our sword out in front of our body, and our feet are going to follow after. And that's going to make it to where this is acting as my defense as well as my offense. Boom, just like that. Aaron did a great thing right there. He cut from vom Tag down into plow. Boom. So when you're reading this part in the manuscript, it says you can discover, you can learn, you can utilize, right? However you want to, look at it, the different guards here. So what this is I'm cutting, and this will be true for every cut. You are going from one guard to another. Mm-hmm. That's it. There's nothing past it. So if I'm doing a basic Oberhau, I'm going from vom Tag to plow, or from vom Tag to Alber. And the same for each one, right? We're just moving from one guard to the next guard, which brings me to, if you practice your guards, you'll actually get better at cutting.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. But yeah, if I practice my guards, I'll actually get better at cutting. And what I'm saying there is the cut from one guard to the other, set the guard as your finish point. So what I see a lot is people will cut, right, uncontrolled, and then have to come back and pull back to the guard. They'll cut their Unterhau and it'll go up, and then they have to pull back into the eyes.
Yeah.
That's not what we're looking to do. We're looking to go from point A to point B. And I'm actually cutting, specifically going directly to that finished position, whether it's plow, whether it's ox, whether it's Alber, whether I'm cutting a short edge Unterhau into vom Tag, I'm pulling right back, right, from one guard to the next guard. The last thing we want to cover with this is the Oberhau and the Unterhau, the basic form of them, is introducing my basic versetsens. All right, this is my setting aside. So my sword is my offense, my sword is my defense. Just like we were talking about getting the sword out in front of us, it's going to produce that defense, but I can use the Oberhau and the Unterhau to set aside pretty much anything that's coming at me. It's like the manuscript says you can set aside all sorts of things. Well, a lot of stuff falls in that category, which is great. But here's the thing. So when I'm using it as an attack, I'm actually going to be reaching and pushing out towards my target. Okay, extending my arms, not to the point to where I'm losing my balance. Okay, that's the key. I see so many people, especially with thrusts, but also with cuts a lot, to where they're reaching out here to where they're no longer balanced, right? I have to maintain my balance step as I cut and as I reach, okay? But with an attack, I want to be out there. I want to be going for the closest available opening as fast as possible. With my defense, I gotta pull back a little bit, because the further I stretch my arms out, the more center line it is, and the more likely it is for an attack to come around the side. But if I pull my arms closer to my body, I've now created the proper angle for this sword to defend me now that I've cut into the guard. So if it's coming in just a basic Oberhau, I can defend just by doing an Oberhau, like from Vom Tag into plow, right? Just to set his sword aside, and that's gonna work for a lot of stuff. many things. That's it on the Oberhau and the Unterhau. Hope you guys are enjoying this, and we'll see you very soon.